the cool and a dynamic city of Kumasi lived two brothers, Osei and Tutu. They had stable jobs, loving families, and a comfortable life, but they had bigger dreams. They often talked about the promises of a better life abroad, stories of friends and acquaintances who had moved to the UK and were living lavish lives, coupled with the exchange rate, fueled their dreams. The brothers wanted to provide the best for their families and believed that moving to the UK was the key to unlocking those opportunities. With high hopes and dreams of greener pastures, they sold their properties, resigned from their jobs, and bid their family and friends farewell. It was a tearful yet hopeful departure. Their families waved them goodbye, wishing them success in their new adventure. The first few weeks in the UK were full of excitement for Osei and Tutu. They stayed with a family member who kindly supported them during this initial period, allowing them to settle in without the immediate burden of paying bills. Everything around them felt new and exciting. The brothers marveled at the towering buildings, the beautiful sights, efficient transport system, and the sense of endless opportunities that seemed to surround them. A month into their stay, their hopes were still high as they secured their first jobs. Jose as a carer in the hospital and Tutu as a security guard at a busy shopping mall. Both brothers worked tirelessly, driven by the hope of building a better future. They saved diligently and soon moved out of their relatives' home to rent their own apartment. They were proud of what they had begun and felt like they were on the right path. However, as time went on, the initial excitement began to fade, and the stark reality of life in the UK began to set in. The cost of living was far more than they anticipated. Rent for their modest apartment, along with the seemingly endless streams of bills for utilities, council tax, groceries, transportations, what have you, quickly ate into their savings. Each paycheck, which they had hoped would provide them with comfort and security, seemed to disappear as soon as it arrived. The dreams of a better life was starting to feel more like a distant fantasy. Instead of the freedom they had imagined, they found themselves trapped in a cycle of exhausting days and sleepless nights. The long hours took a toll on their bodies and spirits, leaving them with little energy to enjoy the city that had once filled them with so much hope. The cold grey weather, so different from the everyday, felt like a struggle. The weather was a constant reminder of their isolation. The cold, gloomy skies of the UK were a stark contrast to the warm, sunny days they cherished back in the Kumasi. The rain seemed to pour endlessly, drenching not their clothes, but their spirits as well. It was as if the sun had set on their hopes, leaving them to think through an endless night. The brothers missed home terribly. They longed for the laughter of their family, the vibrant sound of the markets, and the good taste of home-cooked meals. Instead, they were greeted by silence and the ticking of the clock that signaled another hard day ahead. Ose often thought about their decision to leave. He remembered the excitement, the dreams of a better life. Now, those dreams felt far away. He saw the toll it was taking on Tutu, his brother, once full of energy and cheerfulness, now looked worn out and devastated. There were days when they both questioned their choices. The weight of their decision pressed heavily on their shoulders, making each step forward feel like enormous effort. They had left everything behind, sold their belongings, resigned from their good jobs, all for the promise that now seemed hollow. Their phone calls home were bittersweet. Hearing their family's voice brought comfort, but also a deep sense of longing and regret. They couldn't bear to share the full extent of their struggles, not wanting to worry their loved ones. Instead, they painted a picture of hope, masking their heartbreak with false smiles and empty hopes. The hardest part was the loneliness. In Kumasi, they were surrounded by a community, by people who knew them, who cared. In the UK, they were just two more immigrants, lost in the crowd. The sense of belonging they had taken for granted was gone, replaced by a cold, impersonal reality. They couldn't help but wonder if they had made the right choice and whether the dream of a better life had been worth the sacrifice. One cold winter morning, Jose woke up feeling ill. He felt pains in his body and knew he couldn't make it to work that day. So he picked up his phone and called his supervisor. "Good morning, this is Jose. I am really not feeling well today. I'm afraid I can't make it to work," he explained, his voice weak. The supervisor responded with a simple, "All right, Jose, take care and get well soon." Jose stayed home for a few days until he got better. A week later, when Jose received his paycheck, he was shocked to find out that his pay had been reduced for the days he was absent. He stared at the slip in disbelief, thinking about how unfair it seemed. He decided to speak to his supervisor. "Good morning, Mr. Ted. I noticed my pay has been reduced for the days I was sick. Is that right?" he asked, hoping there had been some mistake. "Yes, Jose," the supervisor replied matter-of-factly. "If you miss a shift, you don't get paid for it. That's the policy." Jose felt a wave of frustration and helplessness. "But I was really sick. Doesn't that count for anything?" "Unfortunately, no. Every day at work matters," the supervisor said. Jose realized that living in the UK was much tougher than he had anticipated. Every single day at work counted, and there was no safety net for those inevitable days when life threw you a curveball. Tutu faced similar struggles, balancing multiple jobs. He barely had time to eat or sleep properly. The stress was hard to deal with. He missed his family terribly and often thought about returning home. But he didn't want to admit defeat. He had invested so much in this dream. The brothers tried to stay strong for each other, but the hardships continued. The process of obtaining residency was long and complex. They filled out endless forms, attended interviews, and provided numerous documents. It felt like a never-ending battle. Years passed, and the struggle only seemed to intensify. One day, Tutu lost his job due to downsizing at the mall. It was a devastating blow. He tried to find another job, but opportunities were scarce. He found one or two menial jobs. However, he felt desperate and dejected. Tutu decided to return to Kumasi and start afresh. With a heavy heart, he packed his bags and returned home. Back in Kumasi, Tutu faced new challenges. He had lost everything and had to start from scratch. But he was determined. He used the skills he had gained in the UK to start a small business. It was tough, but slowly he began to rebuild his life. He worked hard and eventually his business flourished. He realized that sometimes the grass isn't greener on the other side. It was about making the most of what you have. Meanwhile, Osei remained in the UK, struggling but hopeful. Despite the challenges, he knew he had to persevere. He couldn't afford to give up now. He had sacrificed too much to give up. Determined to turn his situation around, Osei enrolled in evening courses to improve his skills. He knew that in order to secure a good job, you need to improve upon your qualifications. So, after long, grueling days at work, he would head to class, often staying up late into the night to study. The exhaustion was overwhelming, but Osei kept pushing, fueled by a hope of a better future. During this time, Osei applied for numerous jobs, facing countless rejections. Each no felt like a blow, but he refused to let it defeat him. He refined his resume, practiced his interview skills, and kept applying. He networked with others in his field, attending industry events and making connections whenever he could. Slowly but surely, his persistence began to pay off. After years of hard work and sacrifice, Osei finally received an offer for a better and a stabler job with a decent salary. It was a position that not only recognized his skills but also provided him with the security and benefit he had been yearning for. He couldn't believe it at first. The journey had been incredibly tough, filled with sleepless nights, relentless effort, and moments of doubts. But standing on the other side of his struggle, Osei felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Reflecting on his journey, Osei knew that he had grown immensely. The hardships had shaped him, teaching him resilience and determination. He had navigated the complexities of living in a foreign country, adapted to its demands, and emerged stronger. Although the path had been fraught with challenges, he had made it. He had carved out a place for himself in the UK, proving that with perseverance and hard work, even the most daunting obstacles could be overcome. Through their separate journeys, the brothers learned valuable lessons. They realized that moving abroad in search of greener pastures isn't always the solution and not for everyone. It's about appreciating what you have and working hard to make the best of it. They both found success, but the path were riddled with challenges and hardship that they had never anticipated. The story of Osei and Tutu serves as a powerful reminder that the pursuit of dreams requires resilience, and sometimes the hardest battles are fought within.